Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Hopefully the strings was very helpful to get you started. So in this video, we're going to discuss, now we've talked about how to start building an application, and now we're just going to continue off of that. So previously, we created a new project, we created a text view, a button. I showed you how to modify the text on a button. We talked about how to change the background color, how to create a different button. But in this video, we're going to start talking about how to actually develop the screen. So what we want to happen is we click on the button, and the text view right now has an output. So we're going to change some properties around and kind of get started with that. And as you watch this video, obviously your assignment this week will be pretty similar. It'll be a little challenging, but for the most part, it'll be pretty similar to what we're talking about. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so you see the screen up here, and this is what we had before. So now I'm going to take this out because this right here is best practice. This is best practice right here. Alright, so let's go over to new layout, and we have our text view right here that we had before. Move this up a little bit. Perfect. So what we don't want to happen, let me actually show you something. So when you're developing an app, the last thing you want to do is have an object with a value in it being displayed. So let's say that you're creating a calculator or something that you click submit and you want a value to pop up here. What you don't want to do is have the default value. So best practice is to try to hide that. So let me show you an easy way of doing that. So you want to make sure that you select the object right here, which is text view, and you come down here under favorite attributes. You have something called visible. Oops, if I click on it, you want to choose invisible. What that does is when you run that application, it won't be there. It'll be blank. But you'll be able to see it from here. You'll be able to see where the object's at. We also need to give it a better name. So like our button name, we have it called button submit. We have this called text view, and I think that we could give it a better ID name. So I'm going to call it txt view 1. So that way, if we have multiple text views on the screen, we can at least understand where this one is. And later on, we could change the specific value to it. Or if it's like a password or username, we put maybe text password 1 or text username 1, something like that. Okay. So let's go over to our main activity. And now what we need to do is program that because we don't have that in here. So we have our button here. So we're going to start right here and type in private text view. And we're going to give it a name. So we're just going to call it text view 1 because that's what we call it. All right, so we call it text view 1. Fine. So now we have our red down here. We have our button program. So we're going to come down here, I think, is a good place to declare this. Actually, let's declare it underneath it. So let's do all our declarations here. So this one is a text view, so it's called text view 1 and equals and we're describing what type of object it is. So we're saying it's a text view, and we're going to say find view by ID, same thing, resource.id find a text view that we just coded. We just called it text view 1. So that allows us, but now Android's having a little hiccup here. So as you see here where it's saying it can't resolve symbol, what that means is we haven't called that library, so it doesn't know what to do. So you can come up here and type import android.widget.textView. Now, since we're calling that library to do what we want it to do, it knows that we could go ahead and display that. So this right here starts off, and we haven't really did anything with it, but let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. At this point, we haven't programmed it to say anything or do anything when the button's clicked, so we need to have an action item, but that's fine. Right now, all we're doing is getting started. We're just programming it to be able to be in our application. Okay, so hopefully that helps. All right, so let's go ahead back over here, and let's see. Let's go and layout and see what we need to do here. All right, so what we need to do is, like I said, we need to have an action event. So what we need to do is be able to click on submit and something happens, okay? So how do we do that? Well, it's pretty simple. So we need to find a way to, we have an on-click event. An on-click event is when an action happens. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it some type of value. So we'll call it show text, or no, show me. We'll call it show me. Or you know what, let's call it something else. Let's see, so we click the action, so we want action event, so we want it to show the text view, so it could be, you know, show the dialogue, it could be show, you know, let's just do this, show me text. Quite simple. So I want to copy that, make sure I remember that. Show me text. So the next thing we want to do is go into activity, and we want to create a module here. So where we have to create a new public module or a public void, so like its own method. So we'll call this, because we want to call this method and do something. So we'll call public void show me text, I think we called it. And then in Android, or I mean in Java, so show me text, yeah, just make sure I call it right. So now we need to program this. So what we need to do is take our text value. So our text value, if you remember, if you click on it, it's called text view 1. So I'll come down here and do text view 1, and it picks it up automatically. And we say, hey, we want to set the text to some value, whatever is insert. So in this case, we'll do r resource dot string dot, and we'll call it show underscore text. Okay. So as you notice here, it's red, and so it doesn't know what to do with it. Are we missing a symbol or something? So if you click on this little guy with that light bulb, we have these three options. So what we need to do is we need to create a string value resource. What's going to happen is we're going to be able to create the value here. And then if we go over to our strings.xml over here, that value should show. So let's do it here. And so what we want to do is give it some type of value. And let's see here, 1 second. Wow, my mouse is gone. There's my mouse. I have 3 screens going. All right. So we want to give it something. We'll say show name and hit OK. So if we go over to strings, look at that, show name. It automatically puts it there. We call it show text. So we didn't have to program it. We did it from this screen. So there's some options. So let's actually see if this works. It's not going to work, but I'll show you why. I just want to. Alright, Steelers unofficial still says submit, so nothing's worked. That's fine. I knew that was going to happen. So we're calling this method. So actually, let's click the button here real quick. So nothing, it blows up because it doesn't know what to do. We're using a view, but we've forgot to add the view. So we'll call it view. Now, you notice here where this is highlighted like this, and it showed you that we're missing, it's another thing that we're missing in the library, not resolved. You click on it, so we need to import the class. So you could click on it and say import class, and if you go at the top here, what happens is it imports it. Remember how we had to write out the text view? You could write it out, or you could go and click on that little guy and it imports the library for you, which is nice because then you don't have to Google and see what library you're missing. It knew which one it was. So by doing that, it allowed me to import that. So that's good. That's a nice feature to have. All right, so let's see here if this works. Maybe that works now. Hey, let's see. All right, click button. Still not working. Oh, okay. Now see, here's what happened. We have the text here. We have it invisible. So we could unvisible it, but we don't want to do that. We want to do it in the code. We want to, before we show the text, and when it shows the text, remind you, it's going to show this text here in a string. So if we click on the string, it's just going to say show name. So we could change this to something else, like let's say Steelers win. All right, I wanted to change it. All right, so we go back to this, and what we need to do is make sure that object is invisible when it gets called. So when we click the button, we need an action to happen. So first action that happens when the button is clicked is this. So what we do is we take the text view, which is text view 1, dot set visibility, and we want to pass a value. So we want to pass a value from the view. So we'll say view dot visible. Okay, so we want to make sure it's unvisible, and then we want to show the text. Then what will happen here is text is shown. All right, so let's see if that actually works. Sounds good. All right. Look at that. Steelers win. Now I'm making a prediction here. Can they beat the Browns today? I don't know. All right, so let's see here. So Steelers win. That right there is first aspect. And I'll show you some other things here in a second. But this right here is a good introduction to get you started. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a different way of doing it, and maybe a more ideal way of doing it. So I showed you how, first way I showed you is how to take the layout and use this button over here and use this property here where, you know, where the heck to go. Oops. The on click button. So I'm going to show you a different way. So I'm going to take that out. I'm going to take that out completely. I'm going to go back to my activity here. I'm just going to comment this out. Let's see if it allows me to comment it out. Let's do this. All right, so that comments my code out. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to come up with, show you a different way of doing this. So as you see here, going back, I must just talk to you a little bit. So this action here, we showed you how to create a button, how to use the properties within a button to actually do an action event. Okay, so that was the first part of it. Now what we're going to do is, actually it's me. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to show you how to go away from setting the properties and actually creating a listener within the code that takes away from that, and then we can call that listener to do the same thing that we did, which is the better practice. The other way works fine, but to make your life easier, it's probably easier just to code it within the coding source. So hopefully this has been beneficial at this point. All right, so let's get started. So as you see here, I commented that code out because I want to create a new set of code because I don't want that to be called. So what I'm going to do now is, let's see, so we have the text view. All right, so we need the listener. So what we need to do is call our listener. So we need to actually put this code in here because this object is declared here. So it has to be within the existing object, okay? So, all right, so we have button name. All right, so we're going to have button submit. That's what we called it. And we're going to type in dot set on. And hopefully you've learned this in Java CIT 111 or 130. Click listener. So we're doing our listener. And we're saying that we're using a new object, which is going to be a view, which we talked about a view. And we're going to do on a click listener. So now we're saying, hey, we're going to make an action event. Something's going to happen here. So what we need to happen here is I need to take this here and do one of these guys here. And that's fine. It gives you some error messages. Not a problem. Because we need to have that parentheses here where it ends at. Because I didn't know where to end at. So now it's giving us a little bit of an issue here. It says must either be declared or abstract implemented. So let's see if I'm missing something here. Let's see, button submit, set on click listener. Oh, okay, I know what's happening. So we need to create an override here. So we'll put an override, which calls the Java language. And we need to have a public here, which I don't have yet. So we'll do a public void, we'll call it on click, kind of like the on submit, on click that we had. Like if we went back to, where were we at? A new layout, I think it was called on click. So we're using the same functionality, but we're calling it something in here. We're calling it on click. We're going to do the same thing. View, I'll give it a value of a V. And I'll see now our stuff goes away. So what we're doing is we're doing the same thing we did down here, except we have to call this on click listener so it knows that, hey, something's going to happen. The button just got clicked. What do I do? And then within that, we have this object right here, is void on clicks, which is the same thing that was down there basically. So it's a little bit different, but neater, cleaner. We could do a couple things here. Is we could just copy and paste that information over here. So I could do this right here and make my life easy. I could do copy, because unless you like to type, I always say type it away. And then I could do the same thing here, is I could just grab. So we're not doing anything, well, yeah, we're not doing anything different here. We're just using the same code that we have here. Look at that. So show text. Perfect. So now, well, something is not perfect because it doesn't like what I did there. Let's see why. What's my missing? So I have that. Oh, okay, so I need to take this out for one thing. And it doesn't like that for some reason, because what's going on here? What's my missing? All right, let's go back to what I didn't do. So let's go back and do an undo. Let's take out these guys and see why. All right, so they were there beforehand. So I'm just double checking. Let's see if I do something to make it disrupt it. So we have this, which is fine. I'm thinking this is wrong. This, I already took that out one time. So that right there covers this block of code. Then we have this code right here. I'm thinking that is wrong. 1 second, let me see what I'm doing wrong here. All right, so these little curly braces are tricky. So this is what I'm thinking here. We see this. We have this guy right here is attached to this guy and he ends. This guy right here is attached to this guy right here. This is the start and this is the end. What I didn't see is the main activity is missing. So I need a closing brace for main activity. That fixes it. So these squiggly marks are where it starts and ends, and it's a little confusing sometimes. So let's go ahead and hit run. That took a little while. No matter how many times you do that, it's so easy to miss that. So hit submit. Steelers win. So as you see, this works this way as well. So actually in your assignment this week, there'll be an area that I want you to do probably both. I should see that you could do it, but I want you to do something different. So this right here is a good start for us to get started. So you see how we're doing it. So this is a cleaner way of doing it. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you have questions, you know how to reach me. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.